Alright. Sitting. Alright. Blaine Ziegler here, sitting here with Christian Gray, and good friend of mine, co-songwriter, worked for me on the Life and Times album, actually co-wrote the song War on G, which is the first song on Life and Times, and then also the song Time, the chorus in that. Anyway, we share the same affinity for the paranormal and also our so-called conspiracy theories, which I would kind of call more of a truth. It'd be more
truth that the masses don't necessarily see it.
Or the masses don't want you. Well, yeah, the masses don't see, but the powers that be don't want you to see, basically. So yeah, but
people keep being sheep, then they have a very bleak view of the world.
Right. Well, there's so many distractions, you know, and I mean, just think about entertainment, and now the news is just propaganda. That's all it is. But okay, the topic right now, let's talk about paranormal situations. You know, we both stay in haunted houses.
It's true.
Yes. Like in our house, you know, in this place where we practice and everything, there are random knocks at the door, and nobody will be there. We'll see orbs flying around to and fro. We'll hear voices, you know, and some type of a weird happening. Like, I've noticed sometimes I'll hear the voice of someone who's about to be there, who hasn't been there yet, you know.
Same thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's something about this area. Like, okay, I was in the bedroom the other day, and I was waiting for our other bandmate, Joe Lancaster, to arrive, and then all of a sudden I heard what sounded like Joel, like, just open the door and say, "Whoa!" And I was like, okay, Joel's here. And I go look at the door, and it's locked. Closed, all that.
Is that not slightly characteristic of Joel? Does he normally enter that way?
No, he doesn't normally enter that way. But it sounded like his voice, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, that got me to thinking about something, but I'll continue. I
have nothing to continue with. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but no, I was thinking, you know, we were talking about before, we were talking about, you know, the, you know, however you want to term it, the veil being thin between worlds, let's say, or dimensions, or however you want to look at it. You know, like I said, I think there are many layers of, there are many dimensions, you know, like I started to wonder if ghosts, you know, or even ghosts, you know, like in a traditional sense, or, you know, maybe there are ghosts, but at the same time, you know, like I've heard some people with paranormal field say, you know, like there's I can't even think what you call it. I'm getting tongue-tied, but you know, there's like an interactive haunting, you know, where there is a spirit that can interact, and then you have these other I cannot think of what it's called, but you have these other hauntings that are just, you know, recreations of like a moment in time, like I think it's called, like the stone tape theory. And it got me to thinking, you know, I don't know if any of these theories necessarily hold true, you know. I mean, it makes sense, you know, like for instance, you know, like quartz stores energy. That's why, you know, they have the crystals in the watches, and they use them, you know, in computers and things like that. But anyway, but no, it got me thinking, like, the stone tape theory, like, I'm not particularly sure, you know, how this building sets, or, like, necessarily everything it's made out of. But, like, it just got me to thinking, like, you were talking about, like, you hear voices of people you know coming in. You hear the door open. You hear keys jingle. You hear, you know, those types of things. But it got me to thinking. Like I've been thinking about it since last night, I guess. You know, you came down, we talked about, you know, a little bit paranormal type things. Just like simple things, like, you know, they say, you know, there's stone tape theory where, you know, I'm sure most people watching heard of the stone tape theory, but the theory that, you know, whatever, wood, rock, water, things can absorb, you know, energy, and, you know, theoretically, like, you know, you hit the right time of year and everything's just right, well, it plays back whatever it recorded, you know.
Right.
And I got to thinking, well, in my house, almost all the voices you hear, almost all the sounds, you know, the oven coming on by itself, switches and all, and
that's
all
scary,
on
man.
itself. Yeah, that is one disturbing thing. Like, particular house really doesn't bother me except for the mimicking thing. You know, I've always heard that's not necessarily a good thing. You know,
Well,
you got
yeah.
something that mimics something else.
Well,
And
I would say that would typically be like demonic entities,
yeah.
trying to impersonate your loved ones.
well,
You know.
we did have that little run-in with the with the demonic thing. That was fun.
Yeah,
That's like that
and-
girl screaming last time we were over here. You remember that, like in the middle of the night? But there was
Yes.
found the girl attached to the screen.
Yeah.
That's the second or third time I've heard that. But you know, I got to thinking where most of what you hear in my house, like it's gotten to be more active now. Like you can see it. You know, like you can see it in the living room, you can see it in the kitchen, and it's not always the same entity or whatever you want to call it. You know, I'm pretty sure there's at least two, if not three. But it got me to thinking, like, yeah, I'm going way out of the way to make a short connection. But
Sometimes you have to.
but my kitchen and my bathroom is all done in this I don't know. I mean, you see, I guess I don't know if it's slate or what exactly, but actual like slate tiles. And then in my bathroom, you know, there's, you know, of course on the floor, and then even the walls of the, you know, the shower are that slate, you know, stone. And it got me to thinking, like, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know for sure, but, you know, like, that would be at least another way to look at it. Like, maybe it's not necessarily something else mimicking people you know, or whatever. You know, if the stone tape theory is true, let's say, and ironically enough, we have the most activity in the bathroom and the kitchen, which are, you know, sort of connected, I guess, in a way. I mean, you know, very close by proximity. Made me think, you know, if the stone tape theory is true, well, that's a lot of stone all over the floor and the walls and whatever. So I wonder if, like I've noticed, me and Beth have both noticed, like when she gets, you know, angry or upset too, but especially me, like if I get upset or angry, you start to hear knocking in the walls, and it's, you know, very distinct, like, sounds like somebody tapping in your walls, but it, you know, it's up in the corner, or it's, you know, but there's nothing attached to it, and it's not like you know, it's a mouse, you know, whatever, but, you know, and I have seen things jump off the table in front of me a couple times, and, you know, I never really believed in, you know, psychokinesis or telekinesis or whatever. Now, I'm not sure if I do, but I do know on a couple occasions I have seen something lift up off the table, hang in midair, and just kind of shoot across the room. But anyway, my point is, if we are capable of doing that in any form, you know, in any form, if we're expressing that level of that energy, let's say, well, if the stone tape theory has any validity, you know, as far as those things, you know, retaining energy or you know, or trauma or whatever. If let's just say, you know, it wasn't the haunted house. Let's say it was me somehow, you know, picking up a tube of chapstick and throwing it across the room without touching it. Well, if I could exert that kind of energy, and the stone tape theory, you know, is true, well then it stands to reason that all those slate tiles could be sort of absorbing some of our emotions and our energy.
Right.
Because, you know, when she's been having the seizures, and, you know, I got a spinal injury last year and stuff like that, it's been, you know, we've had a lot of stress. So, you know, it just stands to reason that if there is any validity to it,
So
it
there's-
could potentially be that. as opposed to something mimicking us. Maybe it's our own voices playing back, you know?
Well, there's more activity when there's stone or when there's water. Yeah.
We have a leak under our house, which doesn't sound like much, but actually went under there this morning, and like a quarter of our house, we got like an inch of water that just sort of...
Is it under the kitchen?
It starts under the bathroom. It's from the tub, I believe it is. We tried to fix the tub, tried to fix it. That's where I think it came from initially, but I mean, it's always wet in there and muddy most of the time. But, and I've seen mud, and I know it's rained quite a bit, but even after, I've seen it rain more heavy than this, and, you know, there's mud in the basement, but I've never seen an accumulation of water, you know, like an inch, a couple inches deep, or whatever.
That's what you're dealing with now.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, like I said, I don't know. I know they say that about water, and you would think, you know, if it's something that, you know, stores energy or plays on the back, you would think that it would be like flowing water, you know, like something to do with kinetics would have something to do. But, you know, I mean, maybe, you know, a horse is just a horse, you know. The water's there, the stone is there. I mean, the house is framed in wood. I mean,
I wouldn't say a horse is ever just a horse. I mean,
just ask the Trojans.
I would say a horse is the composition of all of its cells, you know, and when you get to the atomic aspects of it, you know, I mean, you got millions, if not billions, of aspects working together, you know, to hold this life form intact, you know. And then you've got the genetic code, you know, the genetic memory of it all. And then you've got the experiences of that horse, you know, as it goes throughout life, that's getting maybe imprinted on its mind, you know, that's influencing it. I mean, I don't know how much a horse can learn, but I mean, you know, we're just saying a horse just like it's anything, you know. So I mean, water holds memory, you know, and I mean, I say a lot of hauntings are probably related, probably has something to do with the stone tape situation, you know. I would say anytime a traumatic, violent episode has happened, you know, you have that real intense energy. It tends to play itself back. And I would say intense energy, whether it's positive or negative, because, like, as far as positive energy goes, like, when my father and I recorded at Sun Studio, you know, when we were playing our songs, it was like the energy of the building was working through me. I mean, it was this euphoric thing. And when I was in Nashville, I walked in the Grand Ole Opry, and I'm telling you, dude, it was like you could swim through that energy. Like,
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I've never been there, but I've been to places like that.
Right. And anytime that it's negative energy, it's very oppressive. And if it's positive energy, I would say it's just as real, you know. But it gives you this euphoric feeling, you know. It definitely affects us. Tell me about harm.
Heart. Yeah, we were having this little conversation about heart, and I guess it kind of ties in. Now we're kind of going back over it. Heart. Like I said, everybody's concerned with CERN. That would make a bumper sticker, I guess. But anyway, everybody's concerned with CERN. You know, and you got, you know, the Mandela effect, and you know, they're doing their absolute best to, you know, they've already managed to make molecules more or less teleport from one place to another, just stop existing and then reassembling somewhere else, right, without being anywhere in between. Not in this reality, anyway. But they do that, and then, you know, they've been trying to basically open a hole, you know, to an alternate reality or whatever. And matter of fact, I think I heard a while back that they actually had a little bit of success with it some kind of way. But you know, then you got places like the Skinwalker Ranch, and then the Starlight or Star something ranch. Anyway, they have very similar things about sort of portals opening up, and it kind of ties in, you know, what I said earlier about, you know, there are, you know, like
Going from the Skinwalker situation to HAARP. Okay, because with the Mandela effect gaining prominence, you know, as far as subject for debate, a lot of people point at CERN, and I think one of the reasons they think CERN is a culprit is because of that one photo of the guy in the CERN office with papers all around him, and he's holding up a sign that says we're all happy at CERN, and he has two signs around his neck. One says Bond number 1, and the other one is Mandela. Well, if you search the first Bond film, it was by a guy, I think his last name was Nelson. It wasn't Goldfinger.
that's right, it wasn't Goldfinger, it was can't remember. That's terrible.
That's what it was, can't remember. It was about a guy that knew everything and then forgot all of a sudden. But anyway, going into, see, alright, everybody thinks CERN is one of the main culprits, but like you said, seems that everyone's forgotten about HAARP.
Yeah, HAARP, trying to think. I'm trying to think exactly what HAARP stands for. You would think that I would have double checked it. Anyhow, but you know, you think HAARP, think of DARPA. I mean, that's the way I would look at it. You know, advanced research project or something like that. Anyway, actually, a lot of people do think that HAARP is actually not for oral. That sounds like oral research.
Yeah.
That it's not. You know, it's not about producing these lights and things. That, you know, HAARP is just, you know, one of.
I mean, it's weather modification.
It's weather modification, and you know they're trying to produce, you know, these auras, these lights, you know, like we already have. But a lot of people think that it's really, you want to call it like a black project for DARPA, which everything from DARPA more or less is a black project. I mean, you have a black project, you've got, you know, God knows how many billions of dollars a year, and no oversight from any government official or agency or private or, you know, whatever. But DARPA, you know, they do all kinds of stuff. Well, a lot of people think that, you know, HAARP is just another facet of DARPA. You know, I mean, really, it stands to reason that it is. I mean, even if it was just weather modification, or they were just trying, you know, to produce the lights or whatever. I mean, you know, it's all using, you know, our little bit of knowledge to influence the world around us, you know, and it's gone from, you know, me and you talked before about how, you know, I think we both sort of agree that if you believe in something enough, especially if you can get a group of people to believe in something enough, you know, like, just say for instance, you know, David Koresh, you know, he thought he was Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't the problem to convince himself. I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure David Koresh knew that he wasn't Jesus. However, much like Charles Manson, you know, if you can get one or two people to your wavelength, to your way of thinking, but it's not important. It's not really important that you prove. It's not like you have to, you know, feed a village with a fish and a glass of water or something like that. It's you get one or two people to truly believe that you are what you say you are, and you know, but the hard part's really done because those people will convince other people,
right?
You know? Right. And it's just like how I was watching something about Charles Manson. They were talking about how they were all, you know, eating acid or whatever, and you know, all of a sudden this new girl that comes into the group, and she's like, you know, who do you think Charlie is? What do you think Charlie is? What is Charlie's name? And the girl's looking at her befuddled, you know, like, what, and then, you know, one of them just sort of outbursts, like, you know, you stupid cow, like, man's son, he's the son of man, Charlie is Jesus Christ. Well, see, it's kind of the same thing, but, you know, it's just, I don't know, I guess it's just a different way of looking at it. I mean, it's all, if you believe in anything enough, and you can get a small group of people to believe in it, I think you can, you can get things to manifest, come into fruition.
Right.
So, you know, kind of like I was talking about, you know, Barry Hill, you know, like I said, the Jeepers Creepers, man, you know, like, the two of us very clearly saw it, and, you know, for all intents and purposes, you know, you seen Jeepers Creepers, it looked like the Jeepers Creepers, man, which got me thinking about, you know, whether it could be a skinwalker, you know, from the Native Americans or something to that effect, or, you know, another reality or another, you know, whatever. But, you know, so we have, you know, everybody's all concerned about CERN, you know, currently, and they, you know, like we talked about before, you know, they do this and that, and, you know, they are, whether they've actually ripped a hole in space and time, you know, sort of immaterial, because like I said, I do know for a fact that they managed to move small particles, like, you know, from here to here, but really, that's not so interesting, you know, you can, well, it is, I mean, you know, you could teleport a particle, you know, but, however, the interesting part, the part I find funny is, when it moves from here to here, you know, it's nowhere in the space between, you know, so, if it was there, and then it disappeared, but it showed up here, but it was never anywhere in our, you know, in our reality here, then, you know, where did it go? Did it go to another reality? Or did it disassemble?
It's
like
just like
you
the
see on
TV
Star Trek
room.
and reassemble?
It's just like the TV room, you know, at the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You know, all those particles go up into the atmosphere, you know, and then manifest somewhere else, you know. It really reminds me of the Montauk Project, too, you know, how they were using, actually, they had a brain, I don't know if it was a transmitter of thoughts, in a way, but it amplified a person's thoughts, where you could go in there, and anything that you thought of, it would manifest, you know, like, they could think about a cold can of Budweiser, and it would manifest on the guy's desk, you know, like, say, by 3 o'clock the next morning or something like that, you know. It would be cold and taste like Budweiser and everything, you know.
Where's that power at?
Apparently that power ended up getting out of their hands because that monster was created, right? And they had to shut the facility down, and that monster, that beast that ended up terrorizing the whole facility might still be cemented into the structure, might still be down there locked in somewhere.
Yeah, we were talking about Montauk. And
I mean, one of my heroes, man, is his name leaves me now. That main guy.
You talking about like a scientist, or
he was the guy at the Montauk. Preston Nichols.
Preston Nichols?
Yes.
I think it would come to my mind is Nikola Tesla, and I know he wasn't the Montauk, right? Although he probably had.
See, Preston Nichols. So it was in there related somewhere, but Preston Nichols, you know, is like in his 80s now, and he's messing with radionics. You know, he's like, if you were to go to his facility, like, basically he could use analog sound to give you music therapy, like real music therapy, you know. And I'd really like to get into radionics. I think we ought to figure that one out, you know.
Yeah. You know.
That looks weird.
My eyes are like crazy blue in that light. Well, actually, they look more green.
That look like that plaque.
Okay, but going into Hart. Proceed.
Going into Hart. There's one thing I want to tell you real quick that I'm trying to get out. I'm not going to go on a big tangent here, but you're talking about, sorry, took the wrong time to hear me. The Montauk Project, what was the name of, you know what the name of the military base was in Montauk? I can't think of the name of it. Well, anyway, they turned it into a state park now. But they leased it to the state of New York. But the interesting thing is, there's still, a few buildings on top of the ground, and back when it was in operation, a lot of the property was it was fake stuff, like they had a church that was like weird stuff that didn't make sense, like it was like a cafeteria for the soldier station there or something, but it looked like a church from the outside, just things like that. Well, those things are still around, but the federal government had the stipulation that this base, I can't think of the name of the base, but where the Montauk Project was, or maybe still is, you're talking about the thing that was released. I can't remember that part particularly, but like I said, I don't want to, not completely, I don't want to go off on a huge tangent. However, they did have one stipulation that they'll turn over the land to the state of New York, for use as a public park. But everything above ground is for the public. But the federal government still owns and has control of everything underground. And all of that base is underground. I mean, there's, a couple buildings on, above ground that, are nothing. And there's only, with the exception of one, really tall building that's got this, I can't remember what type of radar. It's one of the first kinds of radar, but it has this huge dish, and it's, originally what it was supposed to do is pick up, so like the Russians come or whatever, it's supposed to pick up bombers or whatever, far off and towards the sea, so you have time to react. Well, what I find interesting is all the buildings above ground that are supposed to be open to the public. Well, they've welded plates over anything metal that they could, and doors or whatever, where they didn't think home, welding, an inch or two thick, steel plate is enough. They just poured concrete. So in some places, like the doors and the windows and stuff, I mean, you have slabs of concrete that are 3-4 foot thick that cover all the entrances to these places. And I just found it interesting that the federal government still controls everything underground. And this huge building with this huge radar emitter, or I'm drawing a blank, it has been seen to turn on its own by itself, but the place has been shut down for however many years, and I've actually seen videos of people that have went there and managed to break in or climb it or whatever, and they get to the top, and the radar dish itself is falling apart, but somehow the thing has turned, and it happened so much one year that they called whomever, fire department or whatever. Fire department goes in. They take a torch, I believe, and cut through the steel plate to get access to the building, because there is no access to it. You can't get in anymore. So they go in it, and they go up, to the room or rooms or what have you, where where all the gears are, that would turn it, if it were on. But there's no power to the building at all, and it's very obvious to them that when they got there that nobody had been there. There's no way that this thing could turn, and it's locked in place. When they stopped it, it's locked in place. It's not like the wind was causing it to revolve. And then they have these couple guys that stay in an RV all the time. The only way you can access that park in a day, but if you want to stay there, if you want to do something interesting like explore or something like that, you have to get a pass from, I don't know, New York's Parks Department or something like that. And then it's still only supposed to be for, I think, 2 or 3 days at the most. You can stay there or camp. And they have parking lots, whatever, like for tourists, nobody's ever there. However, there are these two guys that always stay in this one parking lot in this, $200,000 RV, and they're, you pull up next to them and they pretend to be tourists, and where are you from? That's
Always asking those
see, you got
questions.
Florida plates there, and then say you're going around to the back of your car to get a tent out or something. Well, they follow you to the back of the car,
Yeah.
and they look in your car, and they want to know this, and it's so blatantly obvious that they're
Government employees.
they're government officials. It's like, it's always to the point of being creepy. You can even go to Google Earth and
see
search
that van
for this
there.
base, and you'll see that RV there. It's been there for years, and technically it's not even legal. There's no way that you can stay there for that length of time. It's just, anyway, that was, I try not to go too far off on a tangent, but I found that to be fairly pertinent in and of itself. But HAARP, you want to just keep rolling with this one?
Yeah.
Okay. HAARP, like I said, the government, I think, in my opinion, everything's misdirection. Watch this hand, while this hand's going in your pocket taking all your money. I mean, everything is misdirection. Black projects, and as a matter of fact, I heard something the other day about the government has admitted to from, I can't remember, if it was the 50s or 60s. They know that they did it in I believe the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and up into the 90s, and potentially still is going on. But they have admitted, for 30 years, that the Air Force and the Army sort of joint went in together, and they created certain things. Like they made lights in the sky, and they made things to look like spaceships, and they faked crashes, and they did all this stuff to, like I said, it's all misdirection, so for them to cover up their own black projects, they're like, people are paying too much attention, so what do we do to swindle them? Misdirection. So they create these things, and then they do them in such a fashion to where, a few people will see it at one time, or a few hundred, or a few thousand, and they're manufacturing evidence of aliens to keep us from seeing the newest spy plane or
Right.
the newest UAV or whatever.
It makes me think about the Phoenix Lights.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Very much like that. But HAARP, I think is misdirection in a sense, because, we were talking about CERN. And, CERN is opening these little ripples in time and space,
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I've ever read or I've ever heard, like I always say, it's not that it can't be done. It's not that time can't be changed or altered. It's not that you can not move forward or backward in time. The thing is, you can. I mean, you got your Einstein-Rosen bridges or wormholes, whatever you want to call them. And it's more or less, it's a point of fact at this point. It's not like an idea. If you can open one of these, one of these portals, one of these gaps, to hit one of these wormholes or Rosen Bridge, it's completely plausible, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Google a wormhole or Einstein-Rosen Bridge.
Well, there's that one guy that actually went into a wormhole through, he was working on his sink. I don't know if you know about this or not.
I've seen that.
He had his cell phone on him, apparently, so he was able to get proof of it. But
Yeah.
he went in through his sink, and he found himself, 30 years later.
Yeah, 30, 40 years, something like that.
Right. And I mean, the way that they kind of proved that in the video, or he tried to prove it, was showing the tattoo. It was the same identical tattoo.
Yeah.
Now, I
They're
don't,
also dressed like, well, that's identical too, which is you would think that gap in time. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
I don't know how you would test the validity of that. It's just
I mean,
up for speculation for sure.
you know, I mean, you find the old guy and paint this crap on him, you know, and you look him up like, that's pretty much all you need to sell it, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I do have to say, like,
that's such an out there story. You know, if you were gonna make that story, would you really make it about fixing a pipe under your sink and you crawl into the future?
right.
I mean, that's like beyond H.G. Wells crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, that would be like poor writing, or maybe creative writing. I'm not sure.
Creative, but not necessarily sophisticated in any sense.
Nah.
But yeah, I'm actually getting the heart this time. So I'm getting the heart.
Three videos later.
Yeah, man. Ain't gonna stifle me. Sometimes I gotta talk for 3 hours before I get my point across.
Alright, going back in the heart.
Getting in the heart, eventually.
I mean, as far as this Mandela effect goes,
We should have just recorded our original conversation about heart. But yeah, no, as far as it goes with the Mandela effect, like where I was going before, it's okay. You got CERN. CERN, you know, they're doing everything from transporting, you know, particles from here to there, being nowhere in between, and you know, they're very much trying to, you know, open up a gap, you know, between this place and somewhere else. Which, you know, if the theories about wormholes and, you know, Einstein-Rosen bridges are true, not really sure why you would want to do that, because even if you open a wormhole, you know, this big, doesn't really matter because the way it warps time and space. I mean, potentially it could suck the whole Earth in, you know, and spit it out, you know, another galaxy somewhere or whatever. It's kind of a dangerous thing.
Power of it. I mean,
with it.
So it sounds like there's some type of a relation between wormholes and antimatter, right? Because antimatter seems to have that power too.
Yeah, well, first they had dark matter, and you know, then they kind of, you know, they sort of proved that dark matter existed, and you know, they kind of antimatter, which is, you know, sort of a, I guess, a conundrum, you know, if you look at it that way or whatever. I mean, antimatter has so much more potential energy than matter, you know, dark matter or just matter in general, and just manipulating it a very little bit, you know, causes like massive, you know, reactions. Like, you know, you think of fusion bombs and you think of fission bombs, and then you think this, you know, like it's just this grain of nothing, properly agitated, could destroy the world.
Well,
you know,
all of our
create the
molecular
world.
structures are tied to that antimatter.
Yeah.
So I mean,
That is pretty crazy.
that is pretty crazy.
But the thing with CERN is, or HAARP rather, you know, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. We kind of went in depth, you know, about it a little bit. But okay, you know, if they're trying to open a wormhole, like I was saying before, it's not that it can't be done. It's not that you can't open a wormhole and traverse through time and space through it. It's like I said, it's pretty much point of fact at this point. You know, it's not really a theory so much anymore. But you need like a massive amount of energy to do it. It's, you know, it's like sort of on par with, you know, getting a ship with humans in it, you know, approaching the speed of light. You know, it's just.
It would take like 10,000 years to get, like, say, a pound of antimatter.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, but the logistics of it, you know, it's crazy, like, how much has to be done. But my whole thing about HAARP is, you know, they say, you know, it's this oral research project where, you know, they're doing everything from, like, manipulating auroras to you call it, weather modification. That's, I don't even know. On their cover page of their, whatever you call it, you know, every government agency it has a cover page that surmises, just sums up, what they do, I guess, or whatever. And theirs, they've got like 5 pages of like basically gibberish, and the more you read, the less sense it makes. But, like we were talking about before, HAARP has this antenna array somewhere in Alaska, I can't remember. But there's other places in the world, like I know Russia has 3 or 4 actually. I think the one I'm referring to is somewhere in Siberia, but they have several, and then there's I think 2 or 3 other countries in the world that have similar antenna arrays. And they've been around longer than HAARP, but they all basically say the same thing. Either they're doing weather research, or they're doing aurora research, or they're basically taking radio waves and electromagnetic waves and bouncing them into the ionosphere to see if they can if they can manipulate the weather a little bit. If they can make it rain today, or make it be 60 degrees in Siberia instead of minus 120 or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what they all they all have similar but different.
It's like they all had the same cover story.
Yeah, it's like that's what I'm going to say. It's like they all read the same manual about what do you call this huge antenna array that makes people sick and kills the world. Researching auroras. That's what we want to do. But they have this massive amount of energy that they need, that CERN needs. And I'm not saying that CERN directly, that HAARP directly supplies energy to CERN. That's not not what I mean. But by their own admission, they're bouncing these high frequency, high power waves off the ionosphere, and they're bouncing between the ionosphere and Earth. They're doing all kind of things, and like I told you, people, and something else I found weird. All these aurora research antenna arrays. I just find it kind of interesting that they put them all in places where there's already northern lights, like Alaska, the Aleutian, Siberia, different places like that. It seems like to me, if you wanted to prove that you could create auroras, that you wouldn't
go away from that area.
Yeah, why?
It actually creates it.
Yeah, how could you really prove that that you were doing it? They had been happening there forever. But people that do live around those areas do talk about how the auroras have you can tell like when the antenna arrays are active, because they produce brighter auroras, they're more brilliant, they're lower to the ground, like they don't seem to be in the ionosphere, like they're very much lower, and they produce arrays of color that are not natural. An aurora is caused, I believe it's when the sun has like solar flares or coronal ejections. The solar radiation comes in, and we have these, like at the poles, for instance, you got these, the magnetic fields, and this solar radiation comes in, and the way it hits the ionosphere, it lights up, whatever. That's sort of the long and short of it. But then you've got HAARP, that's what they say. And I was watching this documentary one time, in particular, and it was about these 2 guys that basically hunt down, conspiracies, things like that. Can't remember
like
the
a
name of the show.
Mythbusters for conspiracy.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think they did some other stuff about, like some of their stuff is, about like mythical creatures and stuff like that, but not like they're not out like hunting for dragons, or something like that. But they're like they have, every place has their own legends about this or that, and they go, but it's all about conspiracy. It's from whatever. Like I said, cryptozoological animals, right on up to government black projects. Well, like I said, it's got, in my opinion, probably does a lot more for CERN, in some kind of way. Projecting the power, something to that effect. Like I said, I'm not saying they directly supply, power, across the road, this place, but, if the veil can be thinned, and it takes these massive amounts of electromagnetic energy, then it stands to reason that an array that does nothing but pump, all this crap into the air, into the ionosphere, is kind of exactly what you would need to, create that rip, or that,
Right. Especially in places that are vulnerable.
Especially. And I mean, like I said, you look at the places where these arrays are, it's like, Alaska, the Aleutians, Siberia, just these remote places. Which reminds me, there is an interesting thing about Russia. If you remind me after this, I will tell you. Anyhow, HAARP. I was watching this documentary, and it was about, like I said, it's one of those shows where these people hunt down these conspiracies, and different things like that. Well, they try to get inside HAARP. I mean, like legally, all these places, all these government facilities, most of them are at least partially open to, like public tour, which is kind of a fancy way of saying, kind of like North Korea. You got all these beautiful grocery stores, and until you actually open the door, realize it's all wax. It's just an empty building. But but anyway, HAARP, they try to get legal access to HAARP, to interview somebody that worked for HAARP or helped invent the array, any of that, and they didn't have any luck. And they got a message from, I don't know, I can't, I know we're kind of in a time crunch, so I should probably have my facts in front of me, but whoever handles, like public affairs, for, HAARP and those types of places, DARPA. But anyhow, they were told that, no, it's not possible to, to have a tour. A lot of the work they do is classified, and, the same old blanket thing. But it's kind of funny, you got this seemingly innocent, scientific, endeavor that is, classified. So, kind of makes you think maybe not just a brilliant scientific endeavor. These two guys, I can't recall their names. I can't recall the name of the show. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, they try by hook and by crook, and so they're like, well, we'll ride up to the place, because they've been told that not only was it not possible to go there, but that HAARP had been shut down for, some outrageous amount of time. Like, it had been down for like a year or two or something, and basically the government had, cut the funding, closed the doors, and that was the end of it. Well, they get there, they get up close to the gate, and they park, I don't, maybe 50 feet from the gate, probably not even that far. And they get out, and, I believe it was a cameraman with them, if I'm not mistaken, but, you have this one guy that's real gung-ho, about, oh, we're going to go in there, we're going to see what's going on, He's like, at the same time, they tell us that, the project is closed down, and there is nobody here, so, it's not necessary, it's not, I guess, in the government's eyes, it's still, you committing a crime. But, to them, not so much, it's an empty, there's, abandoned military bases everywhere, Montauk, like we're talking about. But, anyway, so they get up to the gate, and this one guy's all gung-ho. Well, he goes up to the gate, and he's fine. He's going to go in that gate, and he's going to walk down to the array and the buildings, and he's going to see what the hell's going on, Kind of like very Jesse Ventura-ish in the conspiracy show he had.
and I mean, he wasn't freaked out by it in the first place, by even the concept of going in, and the other guy was.
Yeah. I believe, unless I'm misremembering it, but my memory is pretty sharp. That the guy that really didn't want to go so much, he he went on to the fence, but he's a little jittery, a little nervous, really. Well, the guy that's gun code, he's fine. But this other guy, he starts getting towards the gate, and he starts to feel a little bit of vertigo, and he's like, maybe it's just, it's cold here, the air is thin, just trying to explain it off. And I don't think he ever actually even makes it to the gate. He gets about 3 feet from the gate, and he gets so dizzy he can't hardly stand up. So he kind of goes down, and he throws up, and he's just sick, and he can hear this sound in his head like somebody is taking a pickaxe and trying to tap their way out of the skull, and he's just writhing around in agony. Well, the cameraman, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the camera had a little bit of a glitch to it too. We were talking about earlier. I'll get to the other part of this, but anyway, the cameraman and the gung-ho guy decided, that there's something going on. This is more than anxiety. That's what they thought at first. But I mean, this guy's just crippled with mind-numbing pain and nausea, what have you. So they get him in the car and take him. Well, firstly they're just trying to get him away from the array, I guess, and whatever. They got him once they got him back to the hotel. Actually, they took him to a hospital or a doctor, I believe, and he was basically cleared, but they could tell that he was in distress. They just couldn't figure out what from, exactly. But later on, they interviewed the gung ho guy. Interviewed this guy who claims to have been abducted, and he claims that he. And when I say abducted, like, you ever seen the X-Files? I imagine that's more like what he's talking about, not like an alien abduction, but he's abducted as if they were aliens, but they're not. They're give anybody enough drugs and put the right light to them, and make them think anything. And but this guy has heard things in his head, like he thought maybe he was schizophrenic or something like that, but turns out he's really hearing these voices in his head and these things like this. And at first he thought, it was the aliens. Then, it occurs to him, it never really was aliens, it was people. So there's got to be something to this. So he starts digging into it, finds other people who've had similar experiences. And while he's talking to this guy, I can't remember how he figured it out or whatever. But anyway, this guy, he said, I know this is going to seem silly, and, you see it in, movies and TV, like Signs or whatever. He's like, but I found that, a thin layer of aluminum foil, in my hat, or on my hat, whatever. So I try to put it in my hat, so, it's less conspicuous. But that, it seemed to him that ever since that he'd been doing that, these migraines stopped, these voices in his head, all this stuff. So this gung ho guy, he keeps that in mind. They go back, him and the other guy, cameraman, and they rent charter a helicopter, private helicopter. And HAARP is, like most military bases, Air Force bases, what have you, they, restricted airspace, above them. And plus, where they're throwing up this electromagnetic or microwave, whatever kind of radiation it is, potentially it could, make a plane fall out of the sky. Yeah. They're all computer controlled, right. Electronic, whatever.
Malfunction either way.
And so they rent a helicopter, and this guy's like, we only have a certain period of time. I mean, not a certain period of time. We only have, we can only get so close to the airspace. We can't physically get over the airspace, because it's, it's a big no-no, even though the place is supposed to be closed down. Mm-hmm. But they get to it, and that reminds me, I wanted to tell you something about the voices. If I'm not mistaken, on the drive there, the radio, I could be misremembering, this might be from the Skinwalker Ranch. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the Skinwalker Ranch. Because
okay,
the radio was like,
radio,
do not go,
yeah.
666, Satan, and all this
but I believe it was something sort of similar to that, if I'm not mistaken, about this.
Because you're seeing the correlations between
Yeah,
the two.
yeah. And so they get this helicopter and they fly as close to that no-fly zone as they can absolutely get. Well, they almost get as far as they can get. The guy with the foil in his hat, strangely enough, he's not affected. He's cool. The guy that had been affected before, same kind of thing. Starting to get vertigo, starting to get sick, his head starting to pound. And about that same time, it's a brand new, some sort of expensive DV camera, just outrageously expensive. But it almost looks like an analog camera. Like when they start to get close to HARP, which is closed down, these like lights on the ground start lighting up. Spotlights start to come on. Like there are people there. And they're obviously watching their airspace. And they get close. That guy starts getting sick, what have you. And about the same time, they try to edge a little bit closer, and his camera is looking like like an old, I don't know, VHS-C camera or something, that's with a tape that's been recorded. You start to see lines and static form, and the audio is dropping, and it's pixelated, and it's obviously some electromagnetic or microwave, some kind of radiant energy is affecting,
right.
And their mics. You can hear their mics squelching and stuff like that. Well, this guy, he gets a warning on his helicopter. That's, if you ever hear a low terrain warning on any aerial vehicle, it's not good. But this particular one, you got this almost sounds like a fire alarm going off. Like, it's just for a couple seconds, then it stopped, and they think they're okay, so they edge a little bit closer, and then everything, gyros, compasses, altimeters, everything starts spinning, starts moving. How they talk about like Bermuda Triangle, and you go across it or through it, and everything electronic just messes up. Well, that's what's going on, and it gets so bad that the helicopter pilot, he's getting, his panel is lighting up like, Apollo 13, it's that bad, like, just warning, and, all that stuff's going crazy. Well, the helicopter starts to buff it, like it's starting to rattle, and it's starting to pitch, on its own accord, like for a minute, he lost control of the rudders. I mean, he didn't lose control. He physically had control, but it's like it was doing basically what it wanted to do, and it's buffing, and he's trying to figure out, and for a second he thought he was just going to have to just kill the engine and hopefully safely auto-rotate to the ground so they don't die. But he's like, sorry if y'all didn't get what y'all needed, but we're getting the hell out of this airspace before we come down and kills us all, especially we go down in that antenna array. We all know. But as soon as they move away from the array, and they start to move away a couple 100 feet, 1,000 feet, whatever, everything, the cameras come back, the audio comes back, the gyros, helicopters flying smooth, and just real quickly while on that subject of HARP, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. This brings me to this other part. Like I said, I can't remember if it's the same show or it's another documentary or something other I watched. Similar thing though, just conspiracies, unnatural things, mysterious disappearances, I believe is what this particular show is about. And I equate it with HARP. I believe it was fairly close to HARP, but they were talking about where it's an oral research program. One of their main goals is trying to recreate the Northern Lights, and which they've done. And like I said, people say you can tell when it's active, because the lights are more brilliant. auroras only occur in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different shades of color. But these that HAARP is making, they come out all kinds of colors, like rainbows of colors, and it's just not a natural type thing. And people say, well, some people say the auroras themselves tend to drive some people mad, like they can't deal with it. Well, that kind of brings me back to another point, like MK Ultra and things like that. Well, think about it. HAARP is bouncing all this crap into the ionosphere. So let's just say if an aurora can make you, can make you hallucinate or make you lose your mind or make you stumble off into the wilderness. Let's just say that it can. Well, what does a souped-up government version of that do?
Right.
And this particular time, and the reason, like I said, I equate it with HAARP is this guy was up on the mountain, and he had some kind of expensive camera, telescope, whatever. He's rather famous, particularly for just photographing the northern lights in different different places in the world. But he said this night there was a full moon, and the reason he went up the mountain to do that, that he, I mean, there's always northern lights, but I guess he just happened to be set up there that day, or I don't know exactly, but the reason like I said, I think it was fairly close to HAARP, but the reason I equate it with HAARP is how he was talking about how that night he had never seen such colors in the auroras, and they were lower, the lights were a lot lower than they normally were, and just...
He was seeing a synthetic aurora.
Yeah,
did he know that he was seeing a synthetic aurora?
I don't think that he did at the time, but I believe he started to suspect shortly after that he may not have known exactly what was going on, but he, at this point, he had a pretty good idea that, whether it was HAARP or whether it was, just an old illusion, fairy tale come true, or, whatever. But he's going down the mountain. He's done shooting the auroras, and he's going down the mountain. And he sees this girl walking towards him. He doesn't really think anything about it. But she just kind of shoulders into him, like, kind of like she didn't even see him or something, and kept on walking. And, the first didn't immediately strike him as, strange, but then he had something just in his head just clicked, or he said something, something didn't feel right, and that's another thing that kind of makes me equate it with HAARP. He's talking about how, like the hair on the back of his neck and his arms stood up, right? Like electricity in the air, and he couldn't quite figure out, but he figured out that something was wrong, that's what he equated it to. So he turns around, hollers at the girl, a couple times, "Are you okay? You need help?" She doesn't respond, so he catches up to her, physically catches her, and grabs her, like, are you okay? You need some help. And she looks at him, and he said her eyes were glazed over, her pupils were dilated, and her eyes were glazed over like, like a zombie or something like you see in a movie. That's exactly sort of the impression I got. And he said she never did answer me. She really wouldn't respond.